Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another season of Islam Winter 2023. Happy New Year and all the other good stuff that you would normally say at this time of the year. So this is our first podcast back. And of course, as usual, we have a bunch of panelists. Actually, no, correction. It's not their first one. The first one was the draft, but this is the post-draft one, if you will. So on that note, welcome, Mr. Maju.
Assalamu alaikum. I guess we have to say it's the first one with you, so then it's a real podcast.
There you go. And we got Imad Hussein.
Assalamu guys. Well, technically, this is the first podcast of the year. The other one was before the calendar switched over.
Oh, that's true. All right, and we have Mr. Isawi.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
All right, boys. So we got. Let's see if my fancy buttons work. Hey, it works. Nice. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the post-draft results here. The teams were picked, and there's some, on paper at least, there's some really favorites, and there's other ones that are sort of iffy. So our panel will try to break it down as much as possible. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So
who's babysitting tonight?
Not that. I didn't realize my micro picked that up. That's my kids. Usually I have some sound isolation, but tonight clearly not.
All good. So maybe
he'll
he'll
have his mute button handy.
I know.
Yeah. Maybe before we start, a couple of things. It's so all teams are in alphabetical order. There's no other order there, and then just Maju did a lot of work putting these lines together. So if you have any beef with it, talk to Maju.
You just score on him.
Yeah, exactly. He let a softie go by. And then the other is, look, we did our best to put people into these positions, but it's tough, right? Everyone has their preferred position, but in the end, we need to fill up a lineup. So this is all subjective. But let's see how it goes, and please let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, and I'm surprised we don't have our usual early crew on. There's 21 viewers. They're probably watching the World Juniors.
Well, we'll see. This is definitely more important. So
it is for us. All right, it's fine because most of our viewers end up watching it after the live anyways, which is bad. You should be joining us for a live so that you can actually go back and forth with us. All right, so that said, I'm liking these new colors, and I think a big shout out to Omar here who redesigned our jerseys. When we get them, inshallah, they look beautiful. We've seen some previews. So Iman is sporting a new, I guess, logo and color.
Yeah, this was actually the request of, kind of a request by Adam. He's a big LSU fan, and so I decided that when he had committed to GMing, I said that I would do him a solid and make the colors a little bit more relevant for him. So nice. I mean, you can call it what you want. You can call it LSU, Lakers, retro LA Kings, whatever it is that you want. But no, inshallah, I'm really happy with how this came out.
I didn't take in orders on demand.
I do what
because we would have put some in too.
I do what I can. You know what? The Adam was actually probably the first GM to confirm with me actually. So definitely nice. I definitely got tried to implement as much of his feedback as I could.
For sure. All right. So I mean, obviously Adam is one of the GMs for this. So Imad, what does this team look like at first glance?
We were kind of doing the whole post draft in our group chats and talking about the teams and things like that. And Isawi actually made a really great comment before we went online that looking at everyone drafted on the team versus putting them actually into positions and saying, okay, what does the forward group potentially look like? What does the defensive group look like? And you're looking at it like, wow, the defense. I agree with Isawi said, and Isawi, maybe you want to get onto this is. That the defensive crew actually looks a lot stronger on Iman than we all initially thought. Now that we put it all on paper.
Yeah, I mean, as a defenseman, I'm actually very intrigued by this as well, especially because sorry, Zaid, I don't believe that Abdul Nafia will be playing forward. I think that he did found some success in the last 2 seasons on defense, and so I think that he's kind of hit his groove there, and he likes it. Especially he's putting in some goals as well from the point. He's has a very unique slap shot mechanic, and so I actually, if I had my say in this lineup, I would say I'd probably move Mikhail Zaidi to forward, and I would put Abdul Nafia back. And if I were to rearrange it, kind of just as putting my own analysis hat on, I would probably have Adam and Huzaifa. I would actually split them up because I think they play very similar styles in terms of being offensive. And I'd probably pair one with Abdul Nafia, and but maybe Abdul Nafia and Adam, and then Huzaifa with either Sahil or Jawad Majid, right? I think Jawad, that's probably your top 4 as it goes, and then you have Sahil and Bilal Alvi, who I understand is pretty, is a pretty good defenseman in his own right. He's a little younger. Don't forget also, if needed, Junaid Alvi can also play defense, and he's also a pretty good defenseman as it is anyway. So this team is very intriguing. Yusuf Mohammed has the ability to steal games, right? He definitely has the ability to steal games. So I really like where they are from the goalie out. I think their forwards might have a little bit of a challenge in terms of overwhelming other teams with goals, but I think if they're able to get wins by making sure the other team doesn't score, I think this team is very capable in its own right.
Most definitely, I do agree with you on a lot of these pieces. Now, the only thing that I'm going to kind of bring back to the argument is we have Adam Ahmed, Huzaifa Manjra, and Sahil. They take up a lot of minutes. They're heavy minute takers, and just for the fact of like the league really doesn't know how good Bilal Mohideen and Ryan Mohideen are, right? So they are much of an X factor. So I think I was thinking that Abdul Nafia may end up being requested to play forward because you have such experience and such heavy minute guys on defense. And of course, we know that people are likely to miss games because of work, other commitments, and whatnot. But I definitely think that a lot of people will be surprised by their second and third lines, right? Hamza Gaya, Nufil Zuberi, and Ahmar Wasif. They have a lot of speed that they bring. So a lot of teams might be kind of playing back a little bit. Oh, it's the third line, but I'm thinking that that teams might get caught unaware with the speed that Iman actually has. But with their GMs again, Junaid, Bilal, and Adam, definitely I think the most well-rounded crew where you have a center, a forward, and a D. So like that overall, and we know Yusuf can definitely steal games. He's proven that. People say he had an off season last year. I don't buy that. Right? He played really well, and there was just some really weird shots that found their way in, and it is what it is. That's kind of what it is with being a goalie, right? Like you're gonna face those kind of things. But I think Iman will really surprise a lot of teams.
Sorry, guys, I've got to interject here. We need to kind of move on to other teams because we have 8 teams to cover. I will give you the last. I will give you the last word, Iman. Just one sec. So yeah, we'll do that, and also not just talk about the lines, but I would like us to also talk about where we think that the team, as drafted, kind of fits in the top 8. So Imad, you and Omar, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think it's important to note though that there was a trade that took place after the draft. So Iman has been involved in 2 trades. One was before the draft where they traded picks with Taqwa, I believe. They swapped first and second round picks with them. Now Iman also did a 6-player trade. So 3 players swapping each way with Taqwa again. And so Taqwa receives Hamza Gaya, Rayan, Mohideen. No, wait.
Yeah.
It's the other way around, right?
Taqwa received them.
Taqwa sent them.
Taqwa sent them to Iman.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so Taqwa sent Hamza Gaya, Rayan, Mohideen, and Hud Khan to Iman. And then Iman traded away Zaid Khalir, their first overall pick, Suleiman Bhatti, and Yusuf Shahzada over to Taqwa. So that's already reflected in here, but just wanted to make note in case guys are seeing names that don't line up with the draft. That's why that took place, and we'll post details on socials later.
So just in closing about this lineup, and I guess maybe even before that we should mentioned that there are no divisions this year. So typically we used to operate with the Mecca and Medina division, and there would be 4 teams in each division, and then the playoffs would work. Basically, the last team in each division would make it. This season, we're trying something a little bit new, where all teams are in one division. There are 12 regular season games this year, and basically at the end, you're ranked 1 to 8, and teams 7 and 8 do not make the playoffs. So with regards to kind of where this team falls, I'm not really willing to make any predictions, but I will say this team is a young team. Right? This team is probably inexperienced in some regards as well. I don't know if they're battle tested necessarily. So what my concern with this team is, I believe they're fast. I believe that they have good hockey IQ. What I don't know they have is the ability to close out a game, right? Or the resilience to come back in a game that they're behind in, right? That's a little bit of a veteran thing, to believe that you can keep going, or to know that when you need to tighten up, stop running, hold the line, right? So that's just the last of what I'll say.
Mark, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. All right, so let's go on to the next one, which is Haya. So Haya is led by Luqman, Akib, and Sufyan as usual. And typically Luqman, and then no difference here, I think you guys will agree that they always draft really well. And, just in their first 3 picks, or 4 picks, I would say, Hamoudi, Bika, Sadat, and Mufti. How do they manage a top center, a top winger, a top defenseman, and a top goalie?
Luqman and Cole always find a way to do it, man. It's uncanny. Even last draft, but I think that it was it was very well drafted. I'm gonna give a big fist pump to Riz finally making on Haya. I think that he's been left off the squad the last couple of seasons, and he did not seem happy about it. So I'm happy that he's able to be reunited a little bit. And this team
last name is Malik.
There you go. I mean, if I do remember him being one of the only few Maliks not on Haya. So shout out to Rizwan. And again, this team is no slouch. If you look at their top 4D, and I'm just going to comment on the D before I let somebody else take over. You have Luke, you have Amr Hanif, you have Sadat Malik, and you have Dawood Khan. Right? Dawood Khan is, I call him the next coming of Arsal Shahabuddin. I think that he has all the tools, and he has a speed and the hockey sense. Definitely the better Khan. Sorry, Hood. And but again, I'm very impressed with how they drafted defense. And I mean, Khalid Mufti can definitely lock a game down. I have not been able to solve Khalid Mufti in my Islam career. So kudos to Luke for this team. And I mean, I'll turn over to you guys to talk about the forwards.
There was, speaking of forwards, look at their centers, the top 2 centers. You have Hamoudi and you have Akib. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. Those are 2 first line centers, and they're both very well rounded. Play a 200-foot game, so they're guys that are just going to be you can count on them game in and game out throughout. Then you look at the rest of the top 6, and then there's a lot of firepower there. So you have Suf, you have Asabika, who was, I think he was 2nd in goals or 3rd in goals last season.
Second, yeah.
And then you have Hussein Ismail Malik is on the 3rd line. He has the ability to be able to score goals with the right line mates. So it's going to be really, I think this is going to be a really strong team. And similar to what we talked about last season with Haya, is they have the ability to really play a tough, close game. And I think they're even stronger this season. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out on the floor.
It's interesting how they kind of sniped off the best players from Ridah from last season, right? Hamoudi and Bika. They just picked the best players from there and added to their existing ones. What do you think, Majid?
Also speaks to how deep the draft is this season.
Yeah.
I was very surprised at where Asif Bika was picked. I had him in the top 5, and I felt like he was. I think that he was probably a steal for Haya. Where they got
picked 11th, right? So it's
Maju?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Asif fell a lot further than I was thinking as well. But we definitely have the reunification of the Maliks now, finally. I think probably one of the best well-rounded teams, having, I think one of the top assists, of course, Omar, no comparison to you, Mr. Assist Getter of last season, but Hamoudi can definitely find anybody anywhere, and the biggest body there. Luke, Sadat, they're going to block a lot of shots, take up a lot of time, and I totally agree with you when it comes to Dawood Khan. He's definitely flourished under one season playing with Sadat. I think Sadat just needs to foster him and just kind of keep nurturing his ability to play defense. I think Dawood gets a little bit down on himself quickly, but again, that's just the youthfulness. Now, when it comes to Khalid, big fan of Khalid Mufti, no doubt about it. I'm just worried that he's not going to face enough shots. He's a high percentage goalie. He loves the shots. He makes those crazy acrobatic saves. Now, Haya has the history of playing a collapsing game. They will collapse in on their goalie. They will block a ton of shots. Now, Khalid just pulls games out of everywhere. But if he doesn't see the shots, if he doesn't feel the shots, I'm worried a little bit as to how he's going to thrive in such a team. Now, that being said, if he can work with these guys and if he finds his rhythm, I think this is one of the teams out there to beat. It's a really strong team through and through. They're gonna even last season they barely gave up enough goals. They struggled on scoring. I think this season they might have a solution with the yelling of Riz that will really get people running and their blood pumping.
It's gonna be a high energy team, right? Because usually all these Mullets are outside of the glass. Now they're all going to be on the bench. Good for the spectators.
Could that hurt them? Could that be the fire that they need? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but they're definitely a top contender now that we kind of have the lines together and we can actually see what's happening.
Bilal Iftikhar, right. This is the third time they
off.
drafted him, by the way. So I mean, they clearly they have taken a liking to Bilal, which is nice.
Yep. All right, so I have a timer on this time. So when it beeps, you guys are gonna get cut. So let's move on. Okay, the third one is Asan, and by the way, this is probably my favorite logo of all of them. Not because it looks like an Oilers, but it just works really well with this name. So this one is the GM trio of Daoud Mohib and Ali Khawaja. And their first picks were Zakaria Parek, Asan Zaidi, and Rayan Khawaja. So Imad, what do you make of this one?
Well, maybe I'll let Imad go first take on this one.
So it's important to note, from my perspective, they really only drafted three stable or three known D-men from the draft, right? So that's why I thought maybe Dawood's going to drop back because he does have the first line of Mohib, Zaki Parak, who's supposed to be this great breakout player and ability to dish the puck or dish the ball to anywhere, and Rayan Khawaja, who we know is a workhorse. Their second line, again, stable players, well-known experience, well-known ability to kind of control the play. So that's kind of one of the reasons why Osama and Danish have fallen onto the defense as well. Osama is that multi-positional player. He can play anywhere. Just ask him and he'll play it. And well-rounded out with Ali Khawaja, who's one of the top goalies out in the league. So I think their strength is the speed, the ability, the experience, the ability to score, the leading scorer of last season. But I think a little bit of the weakness will come on their back end, right? They have Asan Zaidi, Saif Khawaja, and Mustafa Alam, who are known drafted D-men, right? We have Dawood. Yep.
But you know what, Maju? I'm going to have to disagree with your setup here a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Salman Alvi plays D. He doesn't play forward anymore, so he's going to go D.
Very good defenseman.
Yeah, he's a very good defenseman. Osama Rao will actually go on the third line center, and Zahid will go second line left wing. And I know that for a fact because this is basically the same team I had last year with them, right? And because we had Hindi, Zahid, and Ibrahim. And Habibi as a trio, right? So yeah, but other than that, I think you have them all correct. But just a couple of tweaks I wanted to mention.
No, absolutely.
And the thing is, like, Dawood's like a creature of habit. He likes to draft the same guys over and over again. So you look like Hindi, Ahmed Ibrahim. There's Danish Khan, Osama Rao. All these guys were on the team with him last season, and he's just wanted to draft them again.
Do you think Dawood's going to play D again, or is he going to play multi?
No, I think that forward. I think Salman's going to come back and Dawood's going to go up, and Rayan's going to go to second line. That's what I think personally. Again, guys are always missing, but I what I'm concerned about on this team is Mohib Shah. He succeeds when he has the ball, right? He's a possession player. and Daoud is also very good when he has the ball. They are both trigger men, right? They both have very good shots. And what I'm concerned about is a little bit of tunnel vision. So Zaki Parek really needs to be, he needs to have his head on a swivel to find these guys. And I don't know anything about him, but if he is an elite playmaker, I think he'll fit right in. But if not, they could have a little bit of like fighting for the ball a little bit here. But again, Ali Khwaja, no slouch. I think it was very wise of Daoud to bring him in as basically a free pick as a GM. He's usually the first goalie picked. And I think that Iflas was a little bit disappointed when they saw him on the GM list.
What's also nice about this team is that half of it is really Daoud picking his go-to people, if you will, but the other half is actually the Dynamo old and new generation.
Mm-hmm.
Ali Khwaja, Mustafa Alam, Asan Zaidi, these guys have known each other like forever, right? So you have that crew of the older Dynamo, and you have their sons, Saif Khawaja, Ryan Khawaja, and where's Asan's son is in there too, I think.
He's on
the other one.
Yeah.
But
I suspect some conversation.
It's going to come soon.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice to see that everyone's sort of also making homer teams. It's good that way. All right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one. This time, Iman, you will get the first choice at talking about.
Okay. So I think one of the guys everyone has been talking about is Munawar Hamdani. He's first time in the league, and he's a super elite player. From what I've heard and read, captain of Team Canada ball hockey. So definitely an elite level player. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the dynamic works with him playing in the league and with the players on his team, and then also against other players. He definitely knows some of the guys already in the league, of course. I mean, he's GMing with Usman and Ali Wadi. But I think that's going to be probably one of the more interesting storylines to start this season. But then you look at it, and sorry, you wanted to comment on that?
No, I'm just saying. I just hope he shows up quite often, because I think in St. Catherine or.
Yeah,
but we've had guys who live out there, so as long as the weather isn't bad, given that it's winter, but hopefully he's able to make it out. But then you have Abdul Patel, who is a former GM, and I think he definitely had a lot to say about the drafting that took place on this team. Sakib is I think he's solid as a second line center. That's probably he's probably like a 1B center, if we can call it that. So it's great to have him there. So this is like a very, very well-rounded team. And if we
very well drafted.
And if we look at the defense, I think this is probably the only team that has a very, very, very solid defense, like people who actually play defense, and they've drafted them in their positions.
I'd swap Talha and Madni. Talha's actually a defenseman.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mundy's played too. It just depends on really, like, he flips back and forth depending on what's required. But I mean, if you get Talha back there, then that's perfect. And then you have Badger and Mohamed Patel in net, and he's coming up fresh off a championship. Granted, he probably wasn't the busiest of goalies last season, just given how much his former team drove possession. But he's still elite, and he's training for a marathon now. And he's going to come back hungry. He wants to win another one.
Yeah, I think this is a very well put together team. I think Abdullah Patel is looking to have a bit of a bounce back season. I think he had a lot going on last season with his wedding festivities, and he felt like it was probably hard for him to get a groove just because he was eating a lot and staying up
and trying to get back to his wedding. That's usually a problem.
Exactly right. So his mind maybe wasn't always on the rink, but I think he's probably pretty happy to be playing with his uncle, and I think that I think in my opinion. I feel like Iflas was probably one of the few teams that made the right pick every single round. I think they had a very good idea of how they wanted to build the team, and I think they executed wonderfully. So kudos to them. I also think that's one of the steals of the
guys. Canada just won, by the way, in overtime.
You're a
little late there, sir.
Yeah, I already put up the thing a while ago. Canada scores.
I think Hashim Chaudhry was probably the steal of the draft for this team. At least they got him way lower than he should have gone. A very serviceable offensive defenseman. So I can hear the buzzer going, but I think that again, kudos to them. And when Manower is on the floor, I think that first line is going to give teams a lot of trouble. As a defenseman, I'm not looking forward to playing against this first line.
Yeah, for sure. I think getting Hashim and even Sake, right, like getting them so late or in the middle of the draft is a big plus for them. I know with Hashim, I think he struggled the last few games of the. I don't know if that sort of dropped him in rankings a little bit, but I think that'll only make him more hungry to come back and have a really strong season. All right, so we're halfway there, boys. We're halfway there. So the next team is Team Ridah. I got a maple leaf flag there. Like why?
My
That's
thoughts
acceptable.
exactly.
That's for
My
Canada.
thoughts
Toilet
exactly,
seat.
man.
That's for Canada, guys. Come on.
No. So I had the same reaction as Arif right away. It's like, really, who would put this logo there? But you know, the red, white, and blue. Sorry, the red, white. Sorry, wow. The blue and white teams have struggled as of late. Not last season, but who knows? Might be a first round exit, may not. But like I said before, Ahmed Khalid's happy to be on this team. He's going to love this jersey to end because he's a huge Leafs fan. Now, that being said, this always has been kind of that Malton team, that Malton crew that tries to run together and plays well together. We have Yusuf Ingar, Abdullah Manja, and Fahad Panchbaya rounding out the forwards. And their top D pairing is none other than our Omar Asawi and Mo Kazi. I basically just pulled him back because I think, again, you guys are lacking that true D-man. I think if you look at the true D, you have Omar, Tariq, and Amir Khawaja. That's the true D. I think Kazi wants to play up, but I think he'll bite the bullet and play back. But regardless of that, even the second line, you guys drafted very, very well. Mohsen Makrod, who's supposed to be
I think it's Mankrod.
fire.
I think it's Mankrod, guys, not Makrod.
I'm pretty sure it's Makrod.
He's thinking of a mackerel fish.
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure because I mean I'm pretty sure it's Mankrod. I mean, so maybe somebody on the who would tell us what it is, man.
So the only person who should be making mistakes
it is Makrod.
is Hanan.
It's
I
Mankrod.
believe. Yeah.
That's what it is on the draft sheet and the registration sheet. So
No, I'm
maybe.
pretty sure on his registration form it's Mankrod, Mank. So
Because this is Irshad and Mohammed Makrod.
yeah, and
brother.
I played with Irshad when I was a kid. We both did. Is Maja's right? Is it Makrod?
It's
It's
M-A-N-K.
M-A-N-K.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Anyways, sorry to interrupt you. Izzy. Continue.
No, it's all good. But I think the second line really is going to depend on how Ahmed Khalid plays. I think he's also one of those possession players. Maybe Mohsen might center, but I know Ahmed Khalid really wants to be that center man, wants to play that what is it called? The true blue 23 role or whatever his name is, or 32. I don't even know what number he is. Austin Matthews. But he
34. Come on, man.
Oh, see, wow, yeah, no. Moving on from that, but they've drafted really well. I'm a little bit surprised that Imran Lukenpaul has been put on the back. Same thing with Imran Shah, but again, people are going to move back and forth. We don't really know about Adam Patel or Safwan Patel as much either, or if Hasnain wants to play back.
Someone played last year with them too.
That's right. He played forward.
He was part of the the championship team with them.
Yeah.
So
I think definitely. I mean, being on this team and having some insight, I would probably, if I had to venture a guess, I would probably say that Mohsen's going to be on the first line in place of Fahad, and Fahad will center the second line. That'll be my inkling. I don't have any. These guys haven't posted
Center
lines
only. So
there you go. Right. So I think that that's probably where they'll be. Adam Patel, at least on his registration form, he's indicated that he can play defense. I believe, right? So I think that might be one of the changes that are being made. Like I played on the Orange team way pre-COVID, and I did have some shifts beside Kazi. So him and I play very similar styles with regards to being offensive or joining the rush and stuff like that. So I think we're gonna have to have a bit of a conversation before the puck drops to get an idea of where we're expecting each other to be.
Yeah, and I think
just saw the
Hasnain would
message
also
from-
go.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say Hasnain Trimizi. I think He also makes a really good center. He's really good on the faceoffs.
Yeah.
Former tier 2 MVP, guys, where he was drafted was a steal.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I played with him on the summer, and he played fantastic as a center. So,
This
And
is
a
going
while
to be
ago,
a
saw
tough
him to
team
Ali
to catch
Khawaja
up.
from Pakistan.
Yeah, is Ali going to be playing tomorrow night? What's going on? He's missing the first game of the season as GM. Wow. So this is going to be a really fast team to play against, though. I mean, it's going to be a little scary, I think, for defensemen. And it reminds me a lot of the Iflas team from last season that won it all. They don't have a lot of the other guys like Moib Shah, leading scorer in the league, so that definitely makes a difference. But looks pretty balanced to me.
All right. And then there was Subber. Team Yellow, my team, Subber. So this is a GM trio of Farouk Sani, Maz Haq, and Muhammad Ali Kasantini.
With an assist to Arfan.
So I had a little bit of a hand in drafting, obviously, but it's a lot of the feedback came from the GMs ahead of time. They kind of knew what type of team they wanted, what type of players they wanted. Of course, you can't always get it in the middle of the draft, but I think we came pretty close to the type of team we need and want. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts before I chime in on the potential lineups, because we already made them.
Yeah, go ahead, Zaid.
sorry, I was just gonna say, I think this is, although I've chirped you guys quite a bit for having the average age of maybe 50 or 55 even. I think this is, with that veteran leadership, speed may be an issue. I know Farouk and Maz are pretty fast, so is Mohamed Kasantini. But we'll have to see kind of how that translates out on the floor. You don't need the speed if you can make tape-to-tape passes, which I know a lot of these guys can. But a lot of the veteran leadership is also on the back end. We have Adel Chauhan, Wasim Kagzi, and Abbas Amarsh, and Coach K. Like, you have a lot of amazing players here who could be past their prime. Again, in the 50s, it's hard to be in your prime. But
That's
it's
pushing
going
in the 50s. Come on.
it's going to be interesting to see how it really works out. And again, Arif Hanslod, who's been touted to be this 23 goals in 8 games in Malton Gym League. So will that even translate out to Arena? That's going to be interesting to see. But I do see them as a threat, but they really going to have to get their gears going and their feet going if they want to compete with a lot of the other teams.
So I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna say one thing, right? Mustafa Alam last season, he played with Mohamed Kasantini on Haya, and after the first game, he said, "I love playing with Mohamed Kasantini because I can do whatever I want on defense. I want to look behind me; he's there." And if you translate that now to Adel Chauhan being able to do whatever he wants and knowing that he has that backup, I'm sorry, sir. Like, in my opinion, that's the wrong guy to allow to do whatever he wants, right, and to move freely. So, in my opinion, right, I would say that in terms of just the starting five, right, I would put Subber way up there, right. Like, I think it's a very scary top 5. Depending on who they get to play with Adil. And so I would suspect it's probably going to be Abbas, because Abbas will probably be more of the stay at home. But if you look at that top 5, man, I mean, those are guys that they have very high hockey IQ. I don't think they're going to have to run. I think that they'll be where they need to be, probably anticipating the pass. And at that point, they're basically, I feel they're going to wear other teams out on the cycle. And, kudos to, to the GMs for this plan and R for the execution. But I definitely don't want to underestimate Subber with regards to their depth. But their top 5, I think, is, lights out.
Yeah.
I know, Maju, you were talking about the speed, and I agree. I agree with the saying that speed kills, but speed without direction means you go nowhere really fast.
True, very true. The one thing, looking at this team as it was drafted, the one thing, and also being on the team, I guess, and I think it's been talked about a bit, but there aren't. I'd probably say there's 3 true defensemen who play defense regularly, and who prefer playing in that position. There are obviously other guys who can drop back, like I can drop back, Bucks can drop back, I think Arif and Sani have played. Sani definitely, but Arif has played a shift or two back there as well. But having true defensemen back there, I don't know how that's going to all work, and it's going to be interesting. I know some guys are going to be away here and there, so we might not have to run into that issue. But with a full lineup, that's going to be something interesting. And whether it burns you or not, like I can speak for myself, like I'm much more comfortable playing as, and not plugging myself, but just as an example.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'll use Sani as an example. Okay, Sani, he plays amazing defense, but he much prefers to play as a forward, and he is also more effective as a forward. But sometimes he's put into a position where he has to play defense, and that takes away from the team dynamic. There is a need, but he has to drop back there. Similarly, if I talk about myself, I'll play defense, but I'm much more of a liability as a defenseman than I am playing as a forward, and probably contribute a little bit more to the game as a forward. And I think that dynamic to figure out over the first couple of games, reminder, because this is a 12-game season, so we have a little bit more time to play with and experiment. It's going to be interesting to see that dynamic a little bit. And you have Imran Alvi in net, and he's a solid brother, mashallah. Like he's good, always positive, no matter what happens, supportive of the team. He's a great guy, first guy to put his hand up to say something and share his thoughts. So it's good to have him on the team. So good job drafting Arif.
And the other thing, thanks. The other thing to note is when you have Adil, right? That's also a unique player where you have to sort of build around him as well, right? So you wouldn't normally get players and build teams in a way that you would with other players. With Adil, you know what his strengths are when he actually performs well, and you have to build sort of lineups around that to make the most of it. And same thing with Mohamed Casantini. He also can play big minutes. The brother, he's going for his 5th full marathon and whatnot, right? So he's very, very mashallah fit. So we got players who might be old, but they're also in great shape. So that's really where it comes down to.
One last thing is, Arif, I can see you're trying to run it back compared to before the pandemic when you drafted a team. And I'm just like a little concerned because the last time we did this, we ended up finishing the season and we had a pandemic. But you have Maz back again.
Oh, you gotta jinx it.
You have Farouk, you have Adil, you have myself. We'll see we'll pray that it doesn't happen. But,
you know what Johan said the first time, like when we got drafted, I was messaging him back and forth. I'm like, bro, I know you don't want to play with me anymore, but you're stuck with me forever. And he's like, yo, that's not true. But this looks like Ridah 2.0.
It does.
And the thing is, Wasim loves to play with Adil. He was telling me before too, like when Adil moved over to, I think it was Iman that season, it changed the complexion of their team. So I think that right there is going to be just an unstoppable duo on the back end. Now, I think we should have had some like Mere Mehboob for Faisal, and he kind of started up in the chat too. We should have had some song for him. But Faisal, don't worry, we'll get you next time.
Faisal is a hell of a character. So we're happy to have him both on the floor because he gets a lot of those garbage goals from within 10 feet. But he motivates the team. He's like a Riz, but in a different way. All right. We're almost there. So we got next team is Taqwa. So Taqwa is led by Arsalan, Hamza Chaudhry, and Omar Hussein. So right there, that GM trio itself is very scary. They were like, the Tayyibs from back in the day, right? Like those young, full of potential guys, and now they're in peak, I guess, of their career, if you will, ball hockey. So right there, it's a great trio, and then they just a slew of really good players. So this is going to be one heck of a team.
Now, it's really important to note that the one true D-man that they drafted was Omar Dean. So that's why I have RC and Hamza playing on the back end. Of course, Kalair or Chaudhry, they might even drop back when needed for that extra boost. A lot of like their first line is they can plug and play anywhere, any which way they want that any given night. So that's what makes them very, very difficult to play against. And Tahir, again, amazing two-way player. So he's another person that just can be plugged in onto the second line, move him to the third line, move him to first line, and he just keeps playing and doesn't give up. So this team is again that I think a little bit of an underdog. I think they might struggle for not having.
Underdog. What are
I
you?
think
How they the
This is like
underdog?
one of
They
the
were the
strongest teams.
Oh
I
my
think.
god,
I
underdog.
One of the strongest teams.
I think they're going to struggle with not having the true D-man on the back end. And
Mm.
Riaz, we don't know much about him right now, other than he went pretty high in the draft.
I mean, he look. I'll say this right. I can definitely tell you Omar Hussein is playing defense. He doesn't like to,
Yeah.
but that's their only option right now, right? So Omar Hussein is playing defense, right? I would say your top, top line probably looks something like RC Hamza Chaudhry and either Zaid or Mohammed Yusuf Chaudhry, and then you have Omar Hussein and Tahir Maruf on the back. Okay, that's no underdog starting lineup
Lights
at
out.
all,
Lights
right?
out.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, we all know Hamza Chaudhry ran circles around the entire league the last time he played. Not just that, but he set a record at least for Islam at the hangar. What is it, like 26 points, Arv, or something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that. 26 points.
Yeah, I think 26 points, right? So I'm going to go out on a limb here, guys, and I'm going to say that they're not an underdog. They're probably a bit of a favorite. Now, what I'm concerned about is something very similar. I'm concerned that they have not addressed the defensive needs as well. And so I think that if I was them, I would probably spread the wealth a little bit and really only stack your lines when you need to. And so I think that would probably be the strategy, because they're going to have to roll the lines. Like, I mean, not that the second line is any slouch. You have Amr Multani out there. You have Sulman Bati. And then, I would probably, Zaid Khaler or Mohammed Yusuf Chaudhry would also end up on that second line, right? So it's not like their first line is going to have to do all the heavy lifting. But for their defensive end, right, unless they can really hem teams in, which is what Iflas did last year, right? They held onto the ball. They didn't really give you the chance to shoot on Badger. And that might be the strategy that they're going to employ here with Riaz Hussein as well, right? I heard Riaz Hussein is actually a goalie in every other league that he plays on, except for ours. So I'm going to be interested to see kind of what he's able to do in the net.
He played in net, I think, for 2 games last summer, if I'm not mistaken. It was last summer or the summer before that. I mean, it wasn't concerning at all to see him in net. So it's going to be great. I agree with everything, Isai, what you said. Maybe nothing what you said, Maju. Just kidding.
When you score 5 goals, but you might let up 5, it's going to be a tough trek. So,
but I don't think so, though. I don't think so. You have guys that play both sides of the floor, right? Both sides of the ball. You have RC, Hamza, Omar Dean, Tahir Maruf. These guys both play forward and defense, and we're not even talking about any of those forwards that they have listed up there. So I know we're out of time, but I think this is a pretty well balanced team, and I'd probably put them second only to Iflas on it so far drafted.
And you know what? If they have the type of ball possession that we expect from them, maybe they don't need their defense to be right up there. If you can't take the ball away from them, you're not going to score many goals.
Exactly. Like that. I've seen teams, again, this is tier 2, but I've seen teams with one guy on the bench embarrass a team with a full bench just because of their possession, right? They didn't really need to tire themselves out. So I think these guys are smart players. They have that experience with each other. And so actually, interestingly enough, and we're not doing any game previews, but the second game of the night on Friday, tomorrow, is Iflas versus Taqwa. So I'm very intrigued to come and see what that game, how that unfolds.
Yeah, should be fun.
Come out and watch the game, guys.
And the last team is.
Let's come out and watch the game tomorrow.
Come watch the game for sure.
Free tickets.
Oh man. All right, so I got our last preview is for Team Yakeen, and this is basically the Tea Park team, we can call it. And I think almost literally, they took all the guys who play in the Scarborough League and Tea Park that were available, and that's probably because they know them, right? So we have Hamza, Jogiat, and Yusuf who are back. But instead of Shahid, they have Abrad Desai, who I understand is just as good as any one of those. So, they picked Asim Patel right off the bat, which is no surprise. And I think they pretty much have their, top 4 or 5 guys that they normally play with on Tea Park.
I keep the guys in the comments are really pumping the tires on Ibrahim Tagari. So I don't know who he is. I tried to do a little bit of pre-draft research on him, and I could not find much. So, Zaid, any insight?
I just had him pegged for a bunch of penalty minutes, a few points here and there, but nothing but penalty minutes. So we'll really have to see if Tagari can. I know he's got the speed. Every guy on T Park except for me, who's original T Park, has speed. Um, but it's gonna be interesting to see what he brings to the floor again. Like we have Wasim, we got the sports club, everyone just pumping the tires on Tagari. So I hope he can bring it. I hope he's the big body, the big player that everyone's
Yeah.
making him out to be.
Well, one guy
I guarantee.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, I guarantee you, there's guys in like the 8th and 9th round, like lower, that are going to demolish people up there. It's just because the other GMs don't know them, right? So
Well,
I'm just expecting that.
What I was gonna say was that I've Khalid Hatia was a big sleeper in my opinion. I played Salam Cup with him a few years ago. I think he was actually my D partner, and he was like as solid of a stay at home that you could get. And so I'm where he was picked. I think that is a huge steal. Just nobody knew who he was, and so I'm a little bit concerned with Mobeen on defense. I think that they're gonna probably have to figure out a spot for him on forward. I think he's far more effective there. And I'm sure there's someone else who can drop back. But if you look at that second line, you have EBP, Abrar, and Omar Mahmoud. Right, this is again a very well built team. I would suspect that they probably have some chemistry with each other, given that none of us know them and they seem to know each other. So that always helps, right? That always helps. And so somebody is commenting about Taqwa, I guess because the T and T Park, but unfortunately they were confirmed after Taqwa was given out. So let's see what these guys can do. I think that the Thorncliffe guys, they really surprised us last time when they joined the league and they ended up winning the championship with Arif and Zaid here. So Zaid, a reunion of sorts for you, and best of luck. Honestly, we won't know anything till we see, guys. And that's kind of what it comes down to.
Now, one thing is, do we have jersey number 8? Because I know Asim's gonna want it to be. He's such a big OV fan, so just want to confirm from the get-go. Do we have jersey number 8 available?
I can probably confirm that with you after. I have to look at the list. I haven't memorized it off the top of my head.
Okay.
I don't know if I have anything to add to this, guys. As you said, there are a lot of guys who are new to the league and just not familiar with them. But you're just looking at Asim Patel and Hamza, definitely know him along with Yusuf. They're going to be electric. Omar Mahmoud, I think on the second line, wow, that just speaks to the depth that they have on this team. But we also kind of set up, whether you slot them on the second line or the third line, that's huge for them. But yeah, it's going to be a fun team to watch for sure.
I think we're definitely going to need to concentrate on the defense a little bit. If they are saying that Tagari is 6'4", 240 and he runs like a train or whatever. If he's fast, then great. He might be able to pull a ton of minutes. But we know that
Team
Zakaria
chat already. Don't you know this stuff, Sid? Come on.
Hey, I'm not allowed. I'm not privy to share any of this information. I gotta keep it unbiased. But Zakaria Ali, we know he's gonna miss some games here and there, and we'll just have to find the dynamics and see what really works. But like you guys said, it's gonna take a couple of weeks really for everyone to gel. And being a long season, 12 games, it really that break of Ramadan, it kind of changes a lot of perspectives. So we'll really have to see what happens.
I mean, also I just confirmed there is an 8, but it's a medium, so I don't know. You guys might fight over it. I'm not sure.
Awesome. You might have to bulk down a little bit to fit into that 8.
Man, if Asim still plays the same way, man, this guy is very light on his feet, soft hands. As a defenseman, I hated playing against him. It was really annoying.
The dude scored the goal of the year on his first shift or something.
The first shift. I had that on video. It was not. I'm not gonna name who he had to embarrass, but it wasn't me. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Oh man! But he's also again, Maju and I, we were part of the T Park team that won last year, and I can tell you, those guys, not only are they skilled, but they're also intense, but they're also fun guys to be around, right? like Asim and Yusuf. These guys are hilarious and the jokes and stuff. So it's also a fun team. And when you have a good team, fun team with people that you know, typically you also perform better. So yeah, there's very low downside on this team. If anything, there could be infighting a little bit, but that's also how they. All right.
It's gonna be a
Any
great
last
season,
words
guys.
before? Yeah. Any last words? I'll give you guys each a few seconds here, and then we'll wrap up. Maju.
Hey, I got to play up to these guys, man. This is a great team I'm on, and I'm happy to be on them. But I think I'm the old fart on the team now, so I kind of feel what other guys are feeling because I think I am the eldest. So I just got to live up to my end of the deal and make some big saves.
I think we're the
But
same age now, man. I don't know what you're saying about me.
no, I think you're still 1 year younger than me, man.
We are now the grizzled veterans now on the team.
Wait, that's Baksh's line. Grizzled veteran. If you replay the the draft podcast, everyone's a grizzled veteran.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just a reminder to everybody that look, this is not YCBHL or GTBHL or I mean, this is a Muslim league. We are all brothers. That's part of the allure of the league, where we're able to play with individuals that have the same value system as us. And so when we come to on Friday nights, it's really about brotherhood. Definitely hockey. There is some contact. You can't avoid that. If you don't like being touched, play tennis. Okay, but at the end of it, we shake hands. Right, we hang out after the games, and it's really about brotherhood, right? Just making sure that we have a space that our community can call our own, and not just that, but like as someone who is involved with recruitment, I can tell you that there's a lot of younger players coming into the league, and where myself and Zaid were once youngsters, being mentored by our elders, we're now the mentors, and so we have to take on that role and make sure we're setting a good example, both on the bench and in the locker room and in our team chats. And so I would just encourage everybody to kind of refocus sort of what their mindset is coming in, and making sure that we're able to fulfill the bigger goal. Yes, it's great to win games, but this season will end. There will be another season, and then another season, and then another season. But the bonds and the way we conduct ourselves in the league will be something that I feel is everlasting.
Very well said.
All right, Iman, any parting words?
Follow that.
No, I know. She's great. Thanks. It's like asking me to get on the ice and try a shootout after Zergus or something. But no, I think it's going to be a fun season. I'm just looking forward to starting up again tomorrow night, as are a lot of guys. It's been quite a few weeks off, especially for some of us who got knocked out of the playoffs super early. But yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone next week, inshallah, or tomorrow night, inshallah.
Sounds good. All right, gentlemen, on that note, I give you salams, and inshallah we'll see you guys
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Bye.